Hello again, Chris Lee and Chase Robinson of Southeastern 16 here to power rank SEC football teams heading into week 7. Nobody had what happened on the bingo card. I don't know if that makes doing power rankings fun or frustrating. It's probably somewhere in between. But let's get right into it. Number 16 this week, as has been number 16 for a while, Mississippi State. The Bulldogs had a much-needed off week to get ready for a new quarterback and to prepare for what's ahead with what is a roster that probably doesn't stack up very well with a lot of the rest of the league.
Yeah, they're in a tough spot. Blake Shapen being out does not help that. I thought the bye week did come at a good time, so we'll see how they regroup and what they look like coming out of the week. But yeah, just especially with that injury, you hate to see Mississippi State in the position that they are.
Well, they've been competitive at least, and so was Auburn for the most part against Georgia, and that's what was so frustrating for your Auburn is you finally didn't turn it over. You played Georgia fairly even on the stat sheet in some ways. You know, a Georgia team at a home that was angry, but you had nothing to show for it.
Yeah, and a couple of decisions maybe that you would have liked to seen go different for Auburn, but they're just the struggles continue of getting momentum of kind of doing things the right way. And again, Georgia's good. Take nothing away from them, but yeah, Auburn had some missed opportunities that I think could have gone different for the Tigers.
Number 14, Florida. The Gators have been here for a while. Are things low-key looking up for Florida? I got a good win over a UCF team that I thought matched up well with them. You go back a couple of weeks ago, I know it was Mississippi State, but that was on the road. It hard to get a road win anywhere in the SEC. I think Florida is a team that maybe quietly getting a little bit better. And, of course, we know about that matchup with Tennessee and how weird that one has been through the decades.
Yeah, I mean, I think the win against UCF, as strange as it sounds, was huge for Florida. Like,
Yeah.
again, that was a team at the beginning of the season. You would have said, "Oh, that's going to be tough for Florida to win that one." And UCF was a favorite going in. But look, I think that was huge for Florida to get that win. Now, yeah, they're coming off the big win against Mississippi State a couple of weeks ago. Now to get a win over UCF, like I feel like things are trending up. Now, are they up enough to win some more games down the stretch? To get some really good teams. We'll see, but I think they're in a good spot right now to get some momentum.
Yeah, number 13, South Carolina. I thought the Gamecocks were in a tough spot against an Ole Miss team that I think is very good despite what happened 2 weekends ago. The issues with just moving the ball popped up again. And again, Ole Miss's defense is not the where you're going to be tested when you're trying to straighten that out. I don't know if 13 is fair to South Carolina, but to be honest, from here through about the next 7 or 8 spots, I'm not sure what's fair for anybody. And that's kind of where the Gamecocks landed. And we'll see where it goes. I still think they have hopes for a good season.
I think so too. Yeah, you were catching Ole Miss at a time where, they were coming off a loss to Kentucky. They wanted to prove something. I think they did. Yeah, South Carolina is one of those teams. It has been up and down, kind of a roller coaster of a year for South Carolina. I do think things can trend up very quickly again for South Carolina, and they could be looking at a much higher position when we do this a week from today. But yeah, just they couldn't move the ball against Ole Miss, but I'm interested to see this matchup this week with Alabama for South Carolina and how they can match up with the Tide. But I think things can get much better for South Carolina.
Next up, Kentucky at 12. I think this is the one that I have the biggest issue with. I probably would have put Kentucky. Well, no, probably about it. I did put Kentucky a couple of spots higher. Having said that, I get it. I had some bad games offensively, hard to win when you can't move the ball. But I do feel like Kentucky showed us some more things at the end of that Ole Miss game. And I think having a bye week will really help the Cats into a fascinating matchup this weekend that we'll get into in a minute.
Yeah, and Kentucky, they're in a position where, kind of like I said with South Carolina, it's been kind of a roller coaster for Kentucky, but they're proving to have kind of the team we thought they would, especially defensively. Moving the ball has been an issue for Kentucky, but this matchup, we'll learn a lot this weekend, I feel like, for Kentucky and Vanderbilt, who we'll talk about in a minute. But I think Kentucky is trending up. because their defense is for real.
Yeah. Chase, on what planet are we living that we thought Missouri would be 11? If when we were doing this a week ago. Now, I think there were some trouble signs against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt probably feels like it should have won that game. Maybe you can go back to the Boston College game where there were some lackadaisical moments, but boy, Missouri looked awful against A&M. And a lot of that was A&M, but a lot of that was also some self-inflicted mistakes and frankly some bad luck. There was a PI call that probably, I think the flag got pulled. It probably shouldn't have. And I don't know. It was just a weird week for Missouri. I think they'll bounce back, but so many teams in front of them had good weeks that it's hard to justify them a lot higher than we've got them here.
Yeah, and I think we're finding a lot out about Missouri and how they're performing under pressure. And yeah, they didn't quite look ready for that A&M game, and A&M looked more than ready to go out there and win that game. So yeah, I do have some concerns about Missouri now. I didn't think they would be at 11 because I thought this was a good Missouri team, but yeah, they're showing there is some weaknesses on this team that, and again, yeah, I do think they'll win plenty of more games, but yeah, there's some questions about Missouri moving forward, especially after the Vanderbilt game. They pulled that one out, but yeah, Saturday against A&M, I feel like we learned a lot about, hey, there's some weaknesses with this Missouri team.
Well, they've got a get-right game ahead against a bottom 10 team in college football. I'm not quite sure why Missouri is going to UMass for that, but it is.
Yeah.
Just another oddity in the season. And boy, speaking of oddities, Chase, I hope the people in our audience had the money line on Vanderbilt this last week, and I was at that game in the press box. I don't even have the words to describe that one. We spent a lot of time in the video this weekend. That brings me to this. If you do have the money line on Vanderbilt, and I want you to look up the line on the Commodores game this week at BetOnline while we're doing this. But BetOnline is the most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. It has every stat, every matchup, even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff. Get in on our $200,000 mega contest. Pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino. Get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in all the action. Bet online, the game starts here. I think if you did money line on Vanderbilt to beat Alabama, I think the payoff was 10 times plus what you would put in. So hopefully some of you did that. Probably none of you did that. What's the line on Kentucky? I think was around 12.5 last I was looking.
It's 13.5
for
Kentucky.
Yeah, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Maybe Vegas knows something we don't. But in any case, what do you say about Vanderbilt, Chase? That was one of the most shocking performances in the history of Southeastern Conference football. Diego Pavia. Hey, I'm going to throw something at you impromptu. If you're voting SEC Player of the Year right now, is it Diego Pavia?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I mean, he's a game changer. I mean, he runs it down your throat. He makes good decisions too. Just watching that game Saturday. Yeah, he's tough. Like he's a tough, gritty guy he's not going to give up. And so, that was. I mean, they had a great game plan going into the game. When you hold the ball for 42 minutes out of 60 minutes, you got a good chance to win. And when you control the line of scrimmage, when you control the time of possession, you're in good shape a lot of times. And that's what they were able to do. Just pound it down, and Alabama couldn't stop them. So yeah, tip of the hat to Vanderbilt for getting that win. And I know the folks in Nashville are still celebrating, I'm sure.
I think that was a weird stat game, but if you watched it, it made sense. Alabama averaged 8.8 yards per play and Vanderbilt 5.6. You usually don't see a team with that kind of edge in yards per play lose, which is, I think, why the power rankings and the computers didn't move Vanderbilt up a lot this week, but they were +2 in turnovers and the holding the ball stat. That's exactly what we said Vanderbilt had to do to make it interesting, and Vanderbilt made it more than interesting in knocking off Alabama in a game that I promise you none of us saw coming. Speaking of nobody seeing coming, the Razorbacks, boy, that they would be the talk of the SEC this week. Had Vanderbilt not kind of stolen the show before that, I thought that Travis Williams came up with a genius defensive plan for the Razorbacks. Dropping 8 guys into coverage. Nico just had nothing on that final drive other than one big play he hit. Congratulations to Arkansas. You got to be feeling great about the direction of where things are heading, because you won that one with defense at a time where you've got a gifted offense that is maybe trying to figure it out a little bit. And some of that has to do with Tennessee, right? Tennessee's got a really good defense, but huge win for Sam Pittman and the Razorbacks.
Huge win. And tip of the hat to the Hogs as well, because they, again, game plan great going into that game for the staff there at Arkansas. And that was a game I thought could be interesting. I thought Arkansas presented some challenges to Tennessee that they haven't seen, and Arkansas really took advantage of that. And I think Tennessee is still a great football team who's going to win a lot of games. But I thought Arkansas's game plan looked really good. And this is an Arkansas team who would surprise me if they start trending up some more. Because I liked what I saw from Arkansas. I feel like that's the kind of the Arkansas we've anticipated.
Got a bye week, which might be good to get Taylon Green healthy and maybe just some practice. If you get Taylon Green playing all out Taylon Green, the way that defense played, they're not a team you really want to face. That's a lot of ifs, but I mean, there's some upside with this team here, Chase.
There certainly is, and they're going to be interested to see. And you mentioned they got the bye week, then LSU, Mississippi State on the road, and then Ole Miss. That's a stretch where anything can happen. I feel like with this Arkansas team in those games.
Oklahoma at number 8. I think you were just better off not to play this week. I don't know how else to put it. Oklahoma didn't play. I think the bye week came at a great time. You get guys healed. You get Michael Hawkins more familiar with running the offense. This was just kind of a they just wound up here thing. Some teams you move to a spot because they did something good or bad, and some teams just kind of float, and that's kind of what Oklahoma did. Just floated right into that 8th spot.
Yeah, I feel like I agree with you. The bye week came at a really good time for Oklahoma with Texas this week. They're at a position to get a lot of injuries, trying to get some guys back, and so the bye week worked well for them. And sitting here at number 8.
All right, death, taxes, and LSU at 7.
Yeah, that's they're kind of stuck there right now, and I feel like they could move. There's no doubt about it in coming weeks. Ole Miss this week, it's a big one for LSU, and so they most certainly could move. But yeah, they're just kind of there, and we're still trying to figure out about LSU. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, I feel like we've kind of forgotten them a little bit unfairly. I just keep thinking back to what Brian Kelly did 2 years ago, and you're seeing an offense that's getting better and it's spreading the ball around more. On the other hand, there's that defense, and I just don't know that there's enough talent there to do what they want to do, to have the kind of season they want to have. But then on the other hand, you got a defensive coordinator who did wonders with the Missouri defense. It was just awful. So I don't know. I think this is an intriguing team, and I think maybe one that's kind of gotten lost in the shuffle of the spectacular upsets and the meltdowns, and LSU just kind of sitting there and nobody's paying attention.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to sum it up. And again, I think we'll see some fluctuation in LSU in the coming weeks. I really do.
Okay, I'm having a really hard time explaining our top 6, and that's not a reflection on us. It's just like, what do you do? What kind of order do you put these teams in? Speaking of explaining things, my son loves college football. They're on fall break. He's out there on his iPad looking at top 25 polls and everything. And I'm lucky. I've got one of those kids who just intuitively understood football after asking me hundreds of questions, and also NCAA 2025 didn't hurt either. But I wish I had this thing back when he was younger. It is the book that goes to a kit that you can see behind me. made by our friends at Future Fans. And this product is tremendous. It's $50. It is worth every penny. If you've got a son, a daughter, a grandson, a granddaughter, you want to get them into football and have them understand it. Like if they sit in front of the TV with you and you try to explain them football, they might tune you out because they don't understand it and who cares. This thing's got interactive games. It's got all kinds of things to make it hit home. I've heard incredible stories of how kids have not just gotten into football, but gotten into it just quickly after going through this thing. Family time is really important to all of us. I know I don't get enough of it, but it's good if while I'm working, I can sit there and have my son enjoy a football game with me. And that's what I can do. And boy, if you enjoy your football Saturdays and Sundays, and in the South, who doesn't? You want this kit. Again, $50. It is a terrific product. Helps teach kids the game. I'll be telling you more about it in the coming weeks, but go to futurefans.com. Use the promo code SEC. I think that gets you 10% off, and help out the folks who help our show, and help yourself in the meantime. Show your kids football. It'd be the best $50 you spend all year if you value family time. And just, again, can't recommend it enough. All right, on to the can't explain part. How do we explain what we saw with Tennessee Saturday night?
It was so unexpected. As I was watching, keeping up with that game, and again, I said this when we were talking about Arkansas. Like, I thought this was a game Arkansas could win, but I thought Tennessee was they're so well rounded. They do a lot of things right. But yeah, I think that it was one of those nights for Tennessee, where just things weren't going right, and Arkansas had a great game plan. Arkansas executed really well, and so you can't take a lot away from Tennessee. I think they're still, again, a really good football team. They've got some good games ahead that they most certainly can win. And so, yeah, they're in a position right now. It's what do you do with them? I think there's still some things to learn about Tennessee as well.
Yeah, they still got a quarterback who has not played as much football as his counterparts. And I think he's super talented and a great kid, easy to root for. But you wonder if maybe some issues with inexperience are starting to pop up a little bit. We'll see. I think they could use a bye week. They had one coming into this one, but instead you get Florida and Alabama, and then you get another bye week. But I don't write them off yet. I'm just not quite as sold after what we saw Saturday.
Yep.
But they got every chance to get it back, and God knows they'll have opportunity. Number 5, boy, how would you like to have the fourth quarter of that game over if you're A&M? And I know they haven't played the toughest schedule, but they got a big win this weekend. The way that they dominated Missouri was off the charts. The running game continues to chug along. I think much to our surprise, we had a switch at quarterback. With Paul G. Savannah in Arkansas, I don't know that anybody looked better this weekend than A&M did.
They dominated. You said it. I mean, they dominated Missouri in a good football team. Connor Wegman, I thought, came in and did what a lot of people thought he would all season long. Like, he looked good in that game, and I feel like that's the Texas A&M I thought we would be seeing. After that Notre Dame game, we had our questions. They started winning some games, and now I feel like we're seeing the Texas A&M maybe we thought we would. Like, this is a good football team, and the way they dominated, if they keep that up, watch out for the Aggies because they could be they could wreak some havoc on the SEC this year.
They got a bye week coming up. I think they are going to be favored in every game until the Texas game to finish the season. And we kind of called that before the year. I mean, sometimes, you can be good and you can also be lucky. You can be both at the same time. I think they got fortunate with the schedule. Man, you give them that Notre Dame game back, have a field goal there at the end to win it or something like that. Their playoff odds right now would be off the charts. No, they're not. But I think look out here. That LSU game in a couple of weeks is a big one. Road trip to South Carolina, never easy. That's a November game. where Carolina is really tricky to play, especially in that building. But I'm very intrigued with where this season is going for A&M.
Yeah, I am too. I think it's going to be fun to sit back and watch.
All right. Alabama, you're next. What do we say here?
I've been thinking a lot about this game and where Alabama's at, and I do morning sports talk in the state of Alabama, and so just hearing the fans as riled up as they are following that game, I just can't help but think, that was a game that, again, we talked about when we talked to Vanderbilt. When you don't have the football but 17 minutes and 52 seconds like Alabama did, it's hard to win games. I mean, the defense just couldn't get off the field. The ground game of Vanderbilt couldn't be stopped by Alabama. Does that say that Alabama's a bad team? No, I think Alabama is still a very good team, and everything that they're trying to do is still very capable for Alabama. It would. I think they're a playoff team. That doesn't change my mind on that. I think Kalen DeBoer is an excellent coach. There's some things to figure out. There's some things to work on, but I don't see this as a bad position for Alabama. I really don't. I think, again, everything is still out in front of them. They could still go and do it. Yes, a loss to Vanderbilt doesn't look good for Alabama, but I think they could still win the games. This is a good football team. I think we'll learn a lot in their response from this game. And they got South Carolina this week, Tennessee the week after that. So that's 2 games where, you can go out and prove that, hey, we're not this team, that everybody thinks we are and can't stop anybody. I think there's good offense, good defense. I think Alabama's just fine.
When you beat Georgia one week on a 40-game SEC winning streak and just look dominant in doing it, and then what happens to you happens in Nashville, your takes are going to be very polarized. And so I'll try to bring it together in a way that I think is more balanced. And I'll put it this way. I don't think Alabama has the dominant front 7 that Nick Saban's teams have. Now, play, Vanderbilt was not killing them. And again, I was impressed by watching it, but the first drive of that game was eye-opening. How Vanderbilt's offensive line, which is not anywhere in anybody's top half of the league unit, pushed them around, and I thought was more physical. The discipline issues with Malachi Moore at the end, I think were a little potentially problematic if you don't take care of that this week in practice. The penalties showed up again. Now, I think that's the bad. The good, I think they probably have the most explosive offense in the country.
Yep.
I might question them not getting the ball to Ryan Williams more. I mean, we said SEC Player of the Year. I think he is the most talented player in the league. Whether he ends up SEC Player of the Year, I don't know, which is incredible for a freshman. But I'm very interested to see where it goes because I still see things with them that make me think they could get to the playoff. And I would bet on that, by the way.
Yeah.
But there are some issues, and you saw it last year too. There's some things that they're going to have to work around that are not – but we're also in an age where I don't know that there is a dominant team in college football, and I think it might be that way for a few years.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Chris.
All right, I talked enough on that one. Number 3, Ole Miss. And another team hard to figure because the first few games came against overmatched opposition. The first game they play against a good team that they lose, but I thought they resounded very well in a tough spot in Columbia.
I thought for them to go on the road and win this game the way they did, I think that's really good for Ole Miss. Again, it was one of those days against Kentucky that we're seeing with some of these other teams as well. It's hard to look. We're in an era where it's hard to win out. If you can do that, congratulations. But teams are going to lose football games. Ole Miss did that. Kentucky, I thought they rebounded really well. Their response was great. I thought it was a great game for Ole Miss Saturday against South Carolina.
What did we learn about number 2 Georgia this weekend?
Well, I thought they looked good against Auburn. Auburn didn't turn the ball over, which we talked about. When they don't turn the ball over, it's not a bad offense for Auburn, and yet Georgia was able to stop them the way they did, only allowed 1 touchdown. So I thought Georgia, again, did a nice job of rebounding from what was a tough emotional loss on the road at Alabama the week before. So Yeah, I think Georgia, again, this is a really good football team that can go deep, and Georgia showed that again.
Texas number one by default. Texas was number one 2 weeks ago. We said we're probably going to put the winner of Georgia, Alabama in that spot, which we did. And so Texas, by virtue of Alabama's loss, back at one. And to me, Chase, I don't know about you. There were three calls that I had in our power rankings that were easy. Texas at 1, Auburn at 15, Mississippi State at 16. Everybody else had to give it some thought and no confidence I was right. But this was one of the easier ones, given what happened.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and they've got a tough one against Oklahoma this week. Big rivalry in the Red River rivalry. But, I like Texas. They're rolling right now. They're coming off the bye week, a little rest here. So, there's a reason they're number one, and we confidently put them at number one because they're a very good football team.
Yeah, very good. Can't wait to see that game with Oklahoma. We'll be talking about that as well as everything else in the SEC. We do a live stream Saturday night towards the end of the last games. Hope you will catch that. Best way to catch it, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. That helps us out too. And we cover basketball and baseball also in the offseason. So you check out our content there. Caroline.Smith at Southeastern14.com for advertising inquiries. For Chase Robinson, I'm Chris Lee. God bless you all. You've been watching Southeastern 16 presented by BetOnline.